They built one of the richest empires the world has ever seen, but ended up as powerless puppets in their own palaces. The Mughal Empire, once a symbol of unmatched wealth, culture, and military dominance, rose from the ambition of a young warrior and crumbled under the weight of its own legacy. This is the story of how the Mughals conquered India, ruled it with splendor, and ultimately lost everything. And the real reasons behind their fall might not be what you expect. It all began in 1526, when a Central Asian prince named Babur descended from the mountains, driven by ambition and the bloodline of Genghis Khan and Tamerlane. At the First Battle of Panipat, Babur's smaller army used superior artillery and brilliant tactics to defeat the powerful Delhi Sultanate. This victory was not just a military triumph, it was the beginning of a new era. From that battle rose a dynasty that would change the fate of the Indian subcontinent. Babur, despite his success, faced constant resistance. His rule was brief, and much of the hard work of consolidating power fell on his successors. It was his grandson, Akbar the Great, who would lay the true foundations of the Mughal Empire. Akbar was not only a military genius, he was a master of politics, culture, and unity. Understanding the diverse religious and cultural landscape of India, he reached out to Hindu kings, married into Rajput families, and abolished the jizya tax on non-Muslims. These policies weren't just gestures. They were calculated moves to create loyalty, reduce rebellion, and integrate the empire's vast and varied population. He built a court that welcomed poets, scholars, and artists from across the world. Akbar's reign marked the birth of a new cultural identity, one that blended Persian sophistication with Indian tradition. Under Akbar, the Mughal Empire became a thriving civilization where tolerance was both a strategy and a virtue. His religious experiments, like the Din-e-Ilahi, a syncretic belief system, reflected his desire to unify people beyond their faiths. Akbar's administration was organized, efficient, and inclusive. He appointed Hindus to high-ranking positions and reformed the tax system to reduce burdens on farmers, building a stable economic foundation for the empire. By the time of Shah Jahan, the empire had entered its golden age. Shah Jahan, the emperor who built the Taj Mahal, ruled over a kingdom that stretched from the Hindu Kush to the Deccan Plateau. The Taj Mahal, built in memory of his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal, stood as a symbol not only of love, but of Mughal wealth and architectural mastery. The empire controlled nearly a quarter of the world's GDP. Trade with Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East flowed through Mughal hands. Their cities were booming, their palaces glittering with jewels, and their court life was filled with music, art, and intellectual debate. From Delhi to Agra, the empire looked eternal, but behind the grandeur, shadows were gathering. Shah Jahan's reign, while magnificent, was also marked by costly building projects and internal rivalries. His sons vied for power in a brutal succession struggle. Aurangzeb, the most austere and determined among them, emerged victorious, but at a great cost. Aurangzeb would push the empire to its geographical peak, but also to its moral and political limits. A devout and austere ruler, Aurangzeb reversed many of Akbar's liberal policies. He reinstated the jizya tax, destroyed Hindu temples, and imposed strict Islamic laws. While his military campaigns expanded the empire to its largest size, they also drained its treasury, overextended its armies, and sparked widespread unrest. The Marathas in the Deccan rose in rebellion, using guerrilla warfare to bleed Mughal forces dry. The Sikhs in the Punjab began to consolidate into a formidable resistance. Peasant revolts erupted across the countryside, Instead of unity, Aurangzeb's empire became a pressure cooker of dissent. By the time of his death in 1707, the empire was enormous, but fractured, fragile, and overburdened. After Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperors were emperors in name only. Succession crises, palace intrigues, and regional rebellions became the norm. The empire, once centralized and strong, splintered into smaller kingdoms, led by ambitious governors and warlords. The central authority collapsed, and the throne in Delhi became a prize for whoever had the most muscle. In 1739, a new terror descended upon Delhi. Nadir Shah of Persia invaded India and sacked the Mughal capital, looting its treasures and massacring its people. He took with him the peacock throne and the Koh-i-Noor diamond, symbols of Mughal glory. It was a humiliation from which the empire never recovered. In the following decades, the British East India Company, originally mere merchants, began to assert military and political control. They exploited the divisions within the Mughal territories, signing treaties, buying loyalties, and slowly replacing imperial authority with corporate dominance. By the early 19th century, the Mughals had become little more than ceremonial rulers. Their empire existed on maps, but not in reality. Then came 1857, a final flicker of resistance. The Sepoy Mutiny, also known as the First War of Indian Independence, saw Indian soldiers rise against British rule. They turned to Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal emperor, as a symbol of unity and rebellion. But the dream was short-lived. The British crushed the uprising and exiled Zafar to Rangoon in Burma. He died in obscurity, far from the palaces of Delhi. With his death, the Mughal dynasty officially ended. An empire that once ruled millions with glory and vision had fallen, not with a final battle, but with a whisper. The story of the Mughal Empire is one of brilliance and blindness, of unity and division. It reminds us that tolerance, vision, and adaptability can build empires, while arrogance, rigidity, and overreach can destroy them. From Babur's battlefield to Zafar's prison cell, the Mughals shaped India's identity, leaving behind not just ruins and relics, but a legacy that still echoes in the subcontinent today.